AI is an exponential growth lever. It's as simple as that. And for somebody to be overly cautious and risk averse now to say, no, I'm not going to do that. We'll wait and see what, Fred does next door. Good luck with that. I don't expect you to be alive in 2 to 5 years' time.
Welcome to the King Dems Podcast, where we share the stories of extraordinary people and dissect hot, relevant topics that shape our world. From visionary leaders to trailblazing creatives, we uncover the mindset, strategy, and grit behind greatness. Whether it's business, culture, or personal growth, we ask the real questions. This isn't just conversation, it's transformation. The King Dems Podcast. Your next breakthrough starts here.
Music licensing reimagined.
You're live, ladies and gentlemen. You are once again welcome to the King Dems Podcast. And today I have with me, fighting out of Hampshire, England, make welcome Johann, the Customer Service Revolutionizer. Diaz. How are you, Johann?
Hey, Adamando, nice to meet you. I'm very well. Thank you very well.
Wow. For a minute there, Joran was thinking, I'm a fighter now, but of course you're fighting in life. Like, I know you are a philosopher like myself, but what do you think about the concept of life being a fight, life being a battle place?
Well, that's an interesting one to start with. Life as a battle place. I'd like to see it as a journey of discovery, self-discovery and other discovery. And, we are, I'd say, complex beings, maybe comprehensive beings is a better term, given that we have lots of intelligences. And we might talk about artificial intelligence at some stage, but of course...
We will always talk about artificial intelligence. We will always do that. Why? Guess what? I am AI. Because my first name is Ademola, my middle name is Asimeme. So by default, my initials are AI. I guess my parents had an incline knowing that this guy is gonna be an AI evangelist in the future. So let us align him. So you cannot talk to me without talking about AI, please.
That was a prophecy come true. There we go.
There you go. So AI, please talk to me about it.
We'll get to that, I'm sure. But, AI is only another technology. Let's put it that way. And as I would always say, and anybody who's seen me, followed me on LinkedIn, my mantra is that it's all about service. Life is all about service, frankly, because, service is about people and people are about each other and about community and about love and care and support. And it's no different in the business world. We just shy away from different languages and different words. But service is about caring for each other, whether they be your customers, your employees, your other stakeholders, whomever they might be.
I love that.
For me, life is all about service.
I love that. Very, very much aligns with my philosophy. It just feels as though you have been eavesdropping on my previous, conversations with guests and, of course, my previous episodes. Anybody that follows this podcast very closely would have heard me say multiple times that the greatest leaders in life are servant leaders. Service to humanity is a privilege. Right?
It is.
So
yeah, it is.
Look at the greatest leaders, Jesus Christ, Prophet Muhammad, come down to contemporary leaders, Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama. Name any major leader. These guys are all servant leaders. For you to be great in life, you need to serve. But
I agree.
People don't get it.
And it's hard, let's not be naive about it. To serve is actually probably the highest calling, right? But it takes levels of honesty, takes levels of authenticity and sacrifice. And in our day and age, a lot of people don't want to make sacrifice, and sacrifice is hard. Who would want to make that? But there are times when you're called to. And I challenge people and I've heard in business life people will say, oh, well, it's all about servant leaders and we want our top people to be servant leaders and et cetera, et cetera. And I'll ask the question, well, yeah, that's fine. But does that mean that you'll put yourself out of a job first before any of your employees? Because that's the sacrifice of a servant leader for me. Be careful of using that term about yourself, particularly, because it's a very high calling. And I don't generally allow people to get away with using it as the latest buzzword. Anyway, we digress.
Yeah, and of course, we love to digress. We love to swim deep. We love to deep dive, and of course, in a lot of the deep knowledge oceans, and that is what this platform is about. It is an educational podcast, and our two main goals are to educate and to inspire. That is what we set out to achieve on here. So you talked about life being a journey, and your own life has actually truly been a journey. I look at that extraordinary 35-year journey from engineering to executive leadership. What was that pivotal moment that shaped your mission to revolutionize service excellence?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think when I look back, it's easy to see when you look back. I think sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you might be aware of it, but you don't generally get to have the big perspective. So 35 years later, I get the opportunity to reflect on a journey where actually I was placed, if you like, in the world of service and operations. So if you cut me through and through, you'll find a guy of service and operations in the business world. I love business. I love leadership of business. And I suppose that formed my early thinking that actually, no rocket science here, but we're all about serving customers. It's an obvious one, but I'm staggered at how many organizations still seem to forget that or not put that front and center, and they get diverted, especially in these days of technology, because it's easy to go do things with technologies and activities and all sorts of things, and actually sometimes forget that it's all about the customer and how they journey with you as well.
Exactly.
So I realized maybe I had the opportunity to move from being a full-time executive employee. I was chief operating officer of an operational technology company that did vehicle tracking. And this was a while ago. And I had the opportunity to move out of the corporate full-time world and move into the consulting world and the freelance world. And I had intent to set up my own business at the time, but it was dot-com era. And people only ever wanted to invest in dot-coms and the dot-com boom. So I set up a couple of dot-com organizations and companies, one of the first jobs boards for people with MBAs, because I was halfway through my MBA at the time. And it seemed like the web was great if it was good for anything, it was good for putting people in touch with each other and simply matching one side and the other using web-based enabled database matching. So I'd set that up, and it did okay. It was never going to bring in the millions that perhaps I wanted. But frankly, I wasn't prepared to seek the big investment tickets that were around at the time, in large part because you'd have to sell your soul, really, and probably your family and your home and everything at the same time. And I wasn't prepared or able to do that at the time. But it led me into a different world, a world of freelance and consulting, even though, and I'll let you into a little secret here, I had sworn to myself that I never wanted to be a...
Why? You don't want to be like me.
25 years later, having been a consultant on and off, I've also been back in full-time corporate employment on and off. And I guess we say these days I had and still have a bit of a portfolio career, which is lovely because it's about variety, One of the reasons I came out of corporate life at the time was because my first daughter was born, and I wanted time to spend with her as she was growing up. And then my second daughter was born, and my second daughter actually took us into the world of complex special needs. So her world was very, very different. And my wife and I needed a lot of time to attend lots of medical consultations and lots of meetings and all sorts of things. So I had the blessing and the privilege to spend time with both my girls as they were growing up. And so I found myself in the world of freelance. The IT guys came and found me and they said, you know something about service, come and run our IT service management projects, which I did for the likes of BP and Vodafone and Diageo and Unilever and many of the big guys, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And learned a lot. And this is what I always say to people, you know, everywhere you go, the opportunity is to learn. All right. And
I'll say that you need to learn before you can earn, and learning expands your earning potentials.
That's very true, of course. So I spent 12, 13 years or so freelance project and program management in the world of IT and technologies. After doing 10 years worth of corporate life in service and operations leadership, as I say, leaving as chief operating officer of a medium-sized organization. And I then got pulled back into the world of consulting. I headed up service management consulting for Capgemini in the UK. I went and joined one of the big IT software providers, ServiceNow, for a couple of years. But I've always maintained close contact with clients that I've worked with, because we were talking before, weren't we? That human relationship, again, people do business with people. And generally, people like people. It's kind of the way that we work. So the challenge these days, and we'll get onto it, the challenge these days in the world of artificial intelligence is an interesting one. And because I've been in the world of technology, but always had that focus on service and operations, it got me to a point where I thought, you know what, my reflection on 25, 30 odd years of work in that environment, technology-enabled service, offers me a particular perspective and learned experience that I can now turn around and offer back to organizations, be they large, medium, or small. And I work with large clients, but equally so, I'm working and I want to work with more medium-sized organizations, more scale-up organizations, the folks that really can make a difference quickly because they can make quick decisions. They get it quickly. They're happy to bring alongside them some expertise. One of the ways I do that these days is not to charge high ticket price consulting rates, but what I've done is I've packaged up the 35 years worth of experience into a course, a coaching and advisory program that wraps around the course, so that the smaller or the medium-sized organizations get the chance to really exploit my learnings that I learned in all those large organizations, but now packaged up into a framework that gives them a toolkit and a way forward to help them accelerate their growth, be it revenue, be it new lines of business, be it operating costs and reducing costs, be it reducing risk, whatever it might be. The Customer Service Revolutionizer is the framework that I now use to support organizations in their business outcomes.
You know, service-led businesses, right, will never go into extinction as long as the human race exists.
I agree.
And like was said previously, service is a privilege. I do have a first degree in economics, and I remember speaking with somebody yesterday, and we were talking about money, the concept of money as a store of value. Money is a store of value to individuals, to entities, to corporations, and they will exchange that value with a person or another entity if there is a perceived exchange of value. And that is what you have been able to do successfully. Package value, offer that value, and you get value in return.
Absolutely.
But it seems like a lot of individuals have not been able to clock that methodology. But based off your experience, like what does service-led business growth really mean in today's experience economy? And why should every executive care about it?
We are all experts in the world of customer service, are we not? We know when we've been served well. We enjoy it. We like it. We're grateful for it. It brings out the best in us. And we usually go back for more. So there's a really simple business model here that says serve your customer well in a truly outstanding manner, and you'll just get repeat business from the customer. It's the most obvious one. There is the notion, of course, McKinsey did the study ages ago, didn't they? That the cost of finding new customers is significantly higher than actually just increasing the revenue you get from existing customers by serving them even better, right? And working with them as true partners these days. Because if you serve them well, then let's put it in business language, their satisfaction increases. I might say, therefore, your NPS scores go up.
Mm-hmm.
If their satisfaction improves and increases, then they buy more from you.
Mm-hmm.
The retention goes up. They become advocates for you and your business.
I was waiting for that because that word of mouth referral and advertisement is the most effective form of advertisement or marketing. 100%. Simple.
Yeah. And so, there's they stay partnering with you in what we call the customer journey, the lifetime journey, right? So I'm often bemused when I go into organizations and I look at the mediocre or poor levels of service that they actually offer to their customer base. Now, there may be lots of different reasons for that, right? Not least, let me give you a few. Over the years and decades, let's say, companies have become highly fragmented. Now, for me, a highly fragmented organization cannot join up what I call its end-to-end service delivery, which should match the customer journey. So the consequence of that is that you and I, as a customer, when we're trying to deal with our suppliers, we fall between internal silos, internal departments, internal systems, internal ways of doing things. And I go, why do I care anything about your internal organization? I don't. Mm-hmm. I don't care about your technology. I don't care about your solutions, your systems, your projects. I don't. I only care about the quality of service that you are delivering for me and the value that I get for it. So stay focused, please, on ensuring a seamless, frictionless customer journey. Now, again, one of the big things that organizations forget, service starts the moment a prospective customer engages with your business, i.e., these days, that's either your website and or your social media accounts. You don't get to interact with the prospective customer until they are 70% through the buying cycle in many respects. This is all borne out by current research, right? The world of the customer buyer power has changed massively with our great technologies that we have. So organizations are forgetting a lot of the basic principles of how to serve customers well. And it's not about technologies. It's not about internal departments. There are too many silos and fragmentation. They may have run voice of the customer programs. They may have, employed the best suppliers. They may have done all sorts of great things. But if they are not joining up the end-to-end customer journey, then they're not delivering great service.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Definitely, definitely. And I'm quite curious, especially given the privilege that you've had to work across a lot of these titans, the likes of BP, that's British Petroleum, Vodafone, Diageo, and, helping them reimagine the possible when it comes to customer service, but picking from your wealth of experience, what has been the most surprising lesson that you've learned, working across these diverse sectors? Although they're diverse, but customer service is a common denominator because that is what business is set out to
Right,
do. Every
right.
business has a customer. What is that surprise that you've had across board in terms of the customer service, despite the diversity of the sectors?
Honestly, I think it's in some of the inference that I spoke about earlier on, by way of the large organization not being joined together in the customer journey. So many organizations say, oh, yeah, we do customer journey mapping. And they understand to some degrees how their customer moves through their organization. And they have great people, great processes, great technologies, but they don't bring them together to actually deliver that seamless journey. And nobody tests well enough the customer journey before they quote unquote put things live, right? The
It's a lot of
business world,
disaggregation, especially with those larger scale
yeah,
enterprises.
yeah, yeah. Now, I'd say a lot of this has to do with leadership, frankly, because for me, a great business leader has to see the organization from end to end, has to truly understand the journey that customer goes through from end to end. And that journey,
That is right from, like your purchase order down to your payables, right? You have to have that same synergy across board.
but you see, my argument also, Adamola, is that service starts when the prospective customer starts to engage with
Mm-hmm.
your organization,
Mm-hmm.
right? How well does your website offer them the information that they need to make quick decisions? How
Mm-hmm.
well does it give them build their trust of your organization and its capability, and how you will treat them if they give you money and become your customer? How well do you give them that warm feeling? Because we still, many of us, make decisions based on our emotions, and then we seek the facts and the figures to justify and substantiate our emotional decision, because we're human beings. That's how human beings
Very
work.
true. Emotions a lot of times trumps logic for
Right.
human beings.
Now, here's the interesting thing of that, and many of the organizations I've worked for and with forget this. This is an important lesson that I've learned. The buzzword over the last 10, 15 years has been customer experience. And I get it. I get it. We all, and because that ties into the emotion. So let's unpick this a little bit, right? What we're saying is that when I feel good about the product or service that I've just bought and consumed, then I will usually go back because it was great and it made me feel good. And that's all
Mm-hmm.
great. And we all want to be made to feel good and feel that we're getting good value for money out of whatever it is we've bought, whether it's a business to business product
Or
or
B2C.
service, or whether it's a business to consumer thing, whether it's a restaurant we've gone to or a hotel or whatever it might be, right? We all are human
Mm-hmm.
beings. We all want to feel that we've got value for money and it made me feel good. I get it. But
Exactly. I'll give you this. People don't remember what you did to them. People remember how you made them feel.
correct, absolutely. Here's the but. Many organizations think they can control experience. But experience, by definition, is something that the individual goes through.
It's an
It's not
external variable, not
correct.
an internal variable.
Correct. It's nothing that you can deliver. You can, however, deliver great service and a great product, if you like, that delivers the value with the service wrapper around it, right? So the organization can actually only deliver a great product and service combination and hope that it's got everything good enough to deliver the great for you then to experience it in a fantastic way. Because you and I can go to the self-same restaurant, for example, eat the self-same food and menu, but actually come out with a different experience altogether because it's very individual and it's about emotions and all sorts of things that might have been going on in my life that day and your life that day. Lots of stuff that the company cannot control.
Exactly.
So
Very
my
true.
challenge to the leadership is, why are you so focused on trying to deliver what you think is the holy grail, which is customer experience, when you ignore the outstanding service that you have to deliver to your customer? You pay lip service to that. Some organizations actually think service is still an afterthought. They think it comes after the sale. They might even have a department still called customer service. And you go, wow, guys, have we not learned anything in these last 25 years? Have we not learned that life is all about service? As I said right at the beginning, my mantra, it's all about service. Whether you're serving a prospective customer, an existing customer, a customer who might choose to go somewhere else, it's all about human relationship. So there's lots of lessons. I hope I'm not boring you and your listeners. There's lots of lessons over those 35 years that I've packaged up into hopefully an easily consumable framework. That because again, see, the other thing is my career has been about implementation, not about theory, right? Yeah, I've done the theory. I've done my MBA. I did my electronics degree. I've built on that. I used those, but I always loved business and I always loved service and operations. So I've always used what I've learned, but I've tried to help clients implement it to make a real difference to their organization and their customers. Because as you said, it's all about the value that the customer gets at the end of the day. That's the outcome that you want to achieve. So you won't be surprised to hear that kind of the last module, if you like, in my framework is all focused on the customer outcomes and the business outcomes, and staying 100% focused on that all the way through any transformation programs, any AI programs, whatever it might be. You have to stay focused on the outcomes and the value it's delivering. And so my career has been all about implementation. And that's what I bring to my client organizations that I work with.
There is a lot to unpack here. That's one of the things that jumped at me, was you talking about your MBA, and I love the MBA program. I do have an MBA myself, and I'm quite grateful that I did have some work experience before delving into, doing an MBA. It helps you to get a perspective of, the things you're learning, and that also aligns with your dissecting of the difference between theory and practice. That is, you don't appreciate what you're taught in an MBA program if you don't have that element of practice,
100%.
the practice experience, and you cannot buy that experience. You need to earn it. So,
That's right.
you also talk about AI, and AI is something that is so dear to my heart. Aside from me sharing the same initials with AI, but I have practically used AI to build my own personal organizations, from scratch to something, building even this podcast platform We're probably about 18 months old, and we've already gained a lot of traction globally. It's beautiful, the kind of quality of conversations we've been able to build, the quality of guests that we've been able to assemble, many thanks to a vision, right?
Yeah,
And a
absolutely.
mission that is assisted by AI.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you are going to be episode 100.
How about
And
that? Celebration.
how about that? AI. And I am not shy about it, right? I do have a gifted IQ, an IQ above 130, but I still leverage on AI, for a lot of the things I would do, the production, the editing, the
That's
marketing,
true.
the
Yeah.
scripting.
Yeah.
And
It is phenomenal.
it's beautiful to see what we've been able to do with AI, accomplish with AI, right? It's just the future. Now talking about AI, there are a lot of people, would I say, I think I just identify like a generational wars because I'm a millennial, right? I feel stuck between the Gen Zs, and the Generation X and baby boomers, in the conversation for AI and adopting it. But I just see it's a wave, it's a tsunami wave. It's either you go with it or you get carried away, by it. But a very big concern is the area of empathy, right, when it comes to AI. And of course, in terms of like building tomorrow's service delivery functions, right? I'd like for us to deep dive into that cutting edge. Speaking of the cutting edge, right, when it comes to AI in that service based or service delivery, rather, you are currently leading the charge. You are a pace setter. You are a pioneer in our agent time. And from me to you, it's a very, very big appreciation of your expertise, your experience, and of course, that wealth of knowledge and effort that you're putting in this space. So having being that person, that light in the darkness in our generation, leading this charge towards AI assisted consultancy and emphasis on the assistance, right? Because I always say that AI is here to be an assistant. AI is not here to be the decision maker. Humans first, AI next. And that's the title of one of my episodes, with Mark Andrews, an AI expert in America, right? That AI assistant consultancy, how do you see AI reshaping the service delivery space, in terms of practical and real world use cases and ways?
Well, it is a massive opportunity, I would say, to really spearhead the quality of service that gets delivered to an organization by making it much more effective and or more efficient for the organization at the same time. Because look, for the last 15, 20 years, right, we've all grown up with mobile apps on our phones that allow us to do all sorts of things. Order food, get it delivered, order
Uber
anything,
Eats.
order our flights, our holidays, find a job, and so on, all enabled by amazing technology, courtesy of Steve Jobs and many others, of course, but his pioneering skills and vision, I think, to bring some of this technology to reality. And so we've benefited from that. And so in the world of B2C, it's an obvious one in the consumer world, but even the world of business to business. More of us, because human beings generally still, at the moment at least, run the organizations and work in the organizations. So we would like many of our services within the organization and our collaboration with other people in the organization, our colleagues, our other teams, and so on, to be much more effective and much more efficient, and to use various buzzwords, to be much more digitally transformed, to be enabled through better technologies. So even when we engage with our suppliers as a consumer, we expect much more mobile enabled customer service, customer engagement that allows us to do things at the drop of a hat. We just do. We've grown up that way, and that's what we expect. And there's nothing wrong with that. We have an insatiable appetite for better and better service and a nicer and warmer and friendlier and, better feeling from our interactions with our suppliers. So to my point right at the beginning, I'm amazed at how many organizations don't deliver the great, outstanding service that they need to. So
Emphasis on need to.
need to, yes, need to. That's absolutely right. And again, to that point, right? The customer should be working inside the camp with the organization who is trying to serve them, because that's the best way of understanding your customers' needs and wants and wishes and how things change. You need to be partnering with your customers who need to be helping you develop and deliver your new products and services as you bring them to market as well. And if you're not doing that, you're missing a trick in this day and age. So AI will now have the massive opportunity of transforming and automating many of those interactions. But there's an important point which says you should let your customer decide how they would like to be served. Whether they want to be served using a chatbot or a video agent or an AI avatar or whomever it might be, whatever newfangled technology AI brings to market, an AI agent, you should ask your customer first and not just impose it on them. Because if you impose it on them, then, many customers actually don't want to adopt that channel just yet. Some are at different stages of technological maturity, let's put it that way.
And adoption.
Absolutely right. And you've got to treat your customer like an individual, like a real person.
Because customers are always right.
Yeah, they're always right. Yeah, most of the time. The inference of it is fair enough, right? The nuance is right. Pays the bills at the end of the day. So, but AI now offers organizations the massive opportunity to make things much more streamlined and efficient. But they must do so carefully through the customer life cycle so as not to not to really upset the customer relationship simply
Like
because
that. I like that. Upset.
I'm using my words really carefully. I don't want to swear.
I love that, because that's a word I use often. I tell people I am the most authentic human being walking the surface of this earth, right? And I am very easy to upset and very easy to please. So you pick what you want, right? I'm easy to please, easy to upset. And I noticed that, customers are actually very, very sensitive, Yeah, customers are easy to upset and interestingly easy to please as well.
So let's
We need to
take
be
the issue of
careful.
AI, right? Let's take the issue of AI. Now, I am not a naysayer. I love the technology. I love the technology. I've been in the world of technology all my working life, so I love
You
it.
have no choice but to love AI because I am AI.
However, as always with every technological implementation, remember I said my world is about implementation, it needs to be done really carefully and with your
Emphasis on carefully.
yeah. And with your at the same time, you don't just throw technology into the customer service center or the contact center or the marketing channels or the virtual agents or whatever it might be, right? Don't just throw technology at your customer because invariably it doesn't work first time. It only works so far, and then it's hugely frustrating because the technology, you haven't given it a way out and a way to interact, connect up the human to human and get itself out of the way. So, you need to do it very, very carefully. But the world of AI is just transforming things before our eyes. I mean, the fact that you and I can actually clone ourselves, and who knows whether these two people on this podcast are actually real, are we? Well, one
This is
day,
this is
time will
guys,
tell.
guys, this is AI and that is JD.
That's right. We are real. At this moment in time, we are real. But hey, we are going into worlds that are fascinating, are amazing, present lots of opportunity. But we must always remember it's not about AI. It's not about technology. It is still about service. It is still about how you serve your customer and your employees and everybody else, right? It's not about the AI. It's just another technology. So in using AI, again, I say to many of the organizations that I'm working with, be very strategic in what you're trying to do with the capability that is now placed in your hands. And
Exactly.
very careful as well, because we know, like every technological innovation, in the hands of bad actors, it will take you into very bad places. In the hands of
Power
good actors,
corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
correct, absolutely. And we know that. We're living it on a daily basis. And we see cyber problems and threats everywhere. AI is just going to exponentialize that. It really is. So, one of the things that I try and teach my daughters as they're growing up is to think critically and to discern very carefully the information, be it textual or video or audio or however it's presented to you. Just step back a little bit for a minute and engage brain, because we still have a human brain, to kind of, question um, and just clarify for yourself whether this is real, whether it's true, whether it's something you want to take on. And as the boundaries blur between human and artificial intelligence, that's going to become harder and harder. And, we need to support and encourage and challenge our younger generations as they come through as well, as to how to discern carefully for themselves and think critically for themselves.
I appreciate something you are talking about, and I would love to, what I say, come in and summarize this beautiful message of yours. And I would summarize it in this way: customer centric or customer centered service delivery. That is how I summarize it. The customer has to be at the center of your decision making when it comes to the service delivery. Simple. I was reading an article yesterday. I'm currently unable to pull up that article, but basically that article was talking about how we tend to celebrate the big AI successes, the big AI tech companies, the big AI solutions. But we don't tend to realize that there have also been big AI, failures.
Perhaps, yeah.
There have been ex-Google employees, ex-Apple executives that have come up with certain companies with AI solutions, but these companies have gone under. Why? And when I study your beautiful body of work and apply it to the why, it's very simple. You have to put the customer at the center of any technological solution you're bringing in. And like you rightly said, AI is just another technology. It is very, very important to identify customer pain points, and the customer pain points are what determine what AI solution that you come up with in order to enhance something you spoke about passionately: efficiency of customer service delivery. The customer is the one who determines how you serve them, like you rightly said.
Absolutely.
And if the customer is the one that determines that, the customer will ask for certain, service methodologies, certain, service requirements. And that is where you introduce AI in order to enhance the efficiency of that service delivery. You do not just, impose AI on your customers. You
Absolutely.
bring in AI to assist you to meet that customer pain point in a seamless and synergized and efficient way. And that's simple.
It
And
should
that is
be
what
that.
your message is, but they are not listening. And that is why you're here with me today to help simplify and amplify your beautiful message.
Thank you. You've summarized it beautifully.
I hope I'm doing a good job, in sending the message of JD, in collaboration with AI to the global population.
Absolutely right. Hope they're listening, eh?
I hope they listening. Even the Bible says, "Let them that have ears listen to what the Spirit is saying."
Amen to that.
But what a beautiful way to segue to the next question that I have for you, and that is, how can organizations strike that right balance between automation and the human touch in terms of customer experience?
So the probability, let's start at the end, if you like. The probability is that these days, because of what we've said before, many customers, in fact, most customers, would be very happy with an automated level of service if they can get that interaction managed quickly, seamlessly, effortlessly to their satisfaction. It's the easiest thing to do to go onto the chatbot, to hunt down the information, but it has to be quick and easy. So actually, my assumption is let's go with 80%, right? 80-20 rule is always a good one. So let's assume that 80% of some of the customer support, let me put it that way, interactions, and even pre-sales service interactions can be accomplished if the technology is implemented well enough with the customer in mind, with the customer engaged in the process, and so on and so forth. Now, that means that the amount of time that it has now freed up the humans in the loop, the humans in the loop of customer service, they can devote more time to solving the problems, the opportunities, the challenges that customers have in a very human one-to-one manner. Because we're never going to get rid of that, and we shouldn't try to get rid of that. But AI gives us the opportunity to filter those that are much more transactional and get those done in a much better automated manner using a bit more AI than the ones that you inferred before, that the customer will always remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, not what exactly you did.
Right. And so, for the most part, where the interaction can be smooth and automated, love it. I love it. It makes me feel good when I can interact and get my answer quickly and get whatever done quickly. Right. But when I can't and I have to phone up or I have to press the button to speak to an agent or whomever it is, I want that to be quick. I want them to know everything that I've said before. We want it to be highly personalized. And the technology is there to be able to do that. So there's no good reason, there's no good excuse for not doing that. But then I want to quickly get out of the, if you like, AI process and get to a human being. And you've got to have a big, let me put it this way, you've got to have a big red button on the side that says, get me out and get me talking to a human being at any
I'm
point in
telling
the,
you. I'm
it's
telling
the big
you.
fire button that's for goodness sake, let me just talk to somebody. All right.
Exactly.
Well,
I've experienced that several times because you need personalized service, and sometimes these companies just impose the AI automated questions that do not even relate to your, pain point at the time, and it is actually very frustrating because
it is.
sometimes your pain point is important and it's urgent, and you have these
Right.
companies keep forcing you
Right.
to interact with the AI that is not even solving that unique problem that you have at that time. So it's very, very annoying. I love what you actually suggested there. It's very important to be able to have that option. Human beings love to have the option, the agency, right, to be able
Completely.
to
Absolutely.
choose
And
what they want.
how foolish of companies to think, oh well, we'll just upset a few customers and that's fine, because in this day and age of options, a
Hmm.
plethora of
Hmm.
options,
Hmm.
and the fact that, as you said earlier on, we as human beings are often quite fickle. I have to
Hmm.
hold up my hand and say, well, I know I
Very
am quite
sensitive.
fickle. If I get poor service, I immediately think, oh, I'm fed up with this. I want to go to a different supplier.
Exactly.
These days, technology enables me to do it very, very quickly.
Very
Very,
quickly.
very quickly.
Very quickly.
How foolish the organization that thinks it can get away with just mediocre service and the customer's going to put up with it. The customer doesn't need to put up with it anymore. Anymore. And there are competitors. Here's the other aspect for a CEO, C suite leader. Remember, there are competitors that haven't yet come to market that are going to be AI first, not even cloud first. They're going to be AI first organizations. When they come to market from left field, they will eat your market share at the drop of a hat if you are not paying attention and
Eat it
serving your
raw.
customers exceptionally well. You
Uh-huh.
will be out of business if you don't serve your customer exceptionally well. It's as simple as that. Because AI and cloud technologies and great IT technologies enable us to do that these days. Set up a business with very little expense, not like years gone by. Now you can set up a business within a day, within hours, easily. So more fool the organization that thinks, oh, well, the customer's not going to churn. They're not going to go anywhere else. They'll be okay with a mediocre level of technology enabled service. They won't. Trust me, they won't.
That's a big delusion.
Right. Absolutely.
And delusion is not a good solution.
It's not.
Hmm. It's quite interesting what's happening in the landscape of professional services and service delivery across various industries. I did see a very disturbing piece of news that brought a disturbing statistic. One of the big professional services firms said to be cutting one here in the UK. And I think the author was talking about, is this a function of automation or recession? So I'd like for you to touch on that. So what is the major cause of, the job losses we're seeing right now, in the US and the UK economy? Do you think it's a function of automation or a
I think
function
it's a
of
bit of both.
recession?
I, I think it's a bit of both, right? The reality is we know we're still in fairly tight times. Costs are still going up. People's, living expenses are being squeezed even more. So organizations as well as consumers are being careful in the money that they spend. So there's a financial need to manage your costs very carefully at the moment. At the same time as that, there is the AI and automation opportunity. And by the way, flip side of the same coin, right? Automation and AI. There's a lot of organizations, a lot of leaders that think, oh, I need to do AI for this and I need AI for that. When often what they need is just a bit of good automation. Automation
Uh-huh.
technologies have been around for years. You can do that stuff without needing to layer on the AI capability over the top of that. if you've done automation well, big if you've done automation well and you've got good data structures and such like serving the systems and the processes that serve your customers,
Very true.
then you can layer on the AI capability over the top of that to tease out the intelligence that you've never been able to do in the past because you've not been able to mine huge amounts of data to spot trends and problems and opportunities and challenges in the way we can do today. So I think it's a bit of both. So I think there are some industries, therefore, that will fall foul to the new AI technologies. And professional services stroke consulting may well be one of those because you and I can go on to the chat GPTs or the Geminis or Copilots or anybody, any of the LLMs of the world, and we can interact with the knowledge that seemingly is out there anywhere and everywhere, and we can draw on that knowledge ourselves without necessarily needing third parties, which historically
Exactly.
we've needed to do the research for us, put it all together in a strategy. We can do that in minutes. I mean, this is why it's so mind-blowing. The technology is phenomenal. It previously would take me not even days and weeks, but months to do the research, compile it all together, pair it with market trends, do some benchmarking, put the strategy together that's based on my core competencies, and actually come up with a way forward for my business for the next 12 to 18 months. Guess what? I can do that in half an hour these days. Wow. And my
That's
jaw is
mind-blowing.
still on the floor. I mean, I'm blown away by some of this capability.
The door on the door. I love the cake you just baked, and I'm going to add an icing to that cake. You actually beautifully, explained the the relevance and the benefits of automation. But the icing on the cake is automation actually also enhances scalability for businesses. And my business, King Dems Consulting Limited, we are a CFO advisory firm, and basically our business is to help businesses mind their business, help them grow, and we grow. But the interesting thing is, we deal with SMEs, we deal with startups. We're basically in that business of helping you start up, scale up, and sell out. And that is what organizations need to do in this age and time. You start up, you scale up, and you sell out. And when you're managing your business, it's very important to realize that revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. And
Cash
if
is
you
king.
wish,
Always has
you
been
can say cash is reality.
these days. Indeed. Yeah.
Exactly, and automation is very, very integral to the heart of the businesses that will succeed
Absolutely.
now and going into the future. But I would ask you that you are the pro, I am the Joe, because you've got 35 plus years of experience, and I am not even up to 35 years old right now. I'm just 33 years old. you know
Oh, to be 33 again.
no way.
Yeah, look, with all the opportunity available to you, right? Well, it's fantastic. Great opportunities. I love it.
We know you're a very, very busy man, and you would need to, run off to your next meeting soon. But before you run, they say a gold fish has no hiding place. You can run, but you cannot hide. So
Look,
my last question to you before I push you through the round of fire, and of course before we set up our part two for this very, very fantastic episode. And of course, congratulations to you and myself for this beautiful conversation we've had,
that's
and
good.
the milestone episode 100.
Yeah, congratulations to you.
Episode 100, I think it's just a really, really beautiful thing. And for me, it's really lovely that we've spoken a lot about something that is dear to my heart, my initials, and my gospel, AI. You know, what do you think have been the myths and the mistakes around AI adoption that you've observed so far in the global markets?
One big one is that organizations and leaders wait to see what happens, learn from other people's mistakes. I think that's fallacy, because by the time you then decide, oh, well, I better dip my toe into the AI world, it's too late, because your competitors will have done it long before you. They will have tried and tested and failed at some experiments, but they will have succeeded in others, and they will have gained competitive advantage
Mm,
over
lovely.
your business and your market, and you run the risk of putting yourself out of business if you don't jump in, and frankly, with kind of both feet, knowing that you're going to learn some lessons, harsh lessons along the way, but what you'll win at, well, will be phenomenal. It's exponential. AI is an exponential growth lever. It's as simple as that. And for somebody to be overly cautious and risk averse now, to say, no, I'm not going to do that, we'll wait and see what, Fred does next door. Good luck with that. I don't expect you to be alive in 2 to 5 years' time.
Good luck.
I'm sorry, but there it is. And I say that from the perspective of, I'm working with organizations that are trying to bring AI in. They're doing the right things. They may be struggling with how quickly they can do it. But yeah, as you alluded to before, right? You've been using AI. I've been using AI. AI, of course, is not new. What's been new in the public mind is the large language models, but AI has been around. I mean, I
It's
was
been around.
working at the big IT
I have been
software.
around.
There we are. But I was working at the IT software company in 2016, 17, when we were working on our machine learning and AI models.
Mhm.
So it's been around for at least a decade, and in fact, more than that. It's
Yeah,
just
exactly. Very, very true.
generative
You know,
AI. It's
I really love what you're saying. I really, really love what you're saying. Because I tell people way back in 2018, while I was at PwC, we were using AI already. So when you see me very, very friendly with AI and you surprise them, like, excuse me, we've been using this thing, for decades now. Like, you just tell
yeah,
me you just came to the knowledge of it.
yeah. So I
Because a lot
think
of
that is
people
a
are
big
just coming on.
lesson. It's a really, and I would really urge any of your listeners not to wait, whether they're small, medium size, or large. Don't wait to employ AI capabilities, technologies, tools. But there's the big but. Use expert advisors to help guide you through that process. And the process for me says it's not about the technology. We'll get to the technology. Trust me, we will, because everything runs on the technology. But stay focused on what you're trying to achieve, your business outcomes, the value you provide to your customers, and work back from there. And then we'll bring in automation technology, AI technology, all the right things for the right reasons that will give you the right results at the right time. It's simple. There it is.
Simple as ABC. And the ABC of communication is be accurate, be brief, and be concise. And of course, you have actually hit the nail on the head. So, but one thing I really appreciate that you spoke about was businesses early adopting AI, testing and failing and testing till you find the right, AI tools, AI capabilities. And that is something I've done with this podcast. I've used different tools, before achieving the right set of tools and combinations to utilize you can go back to episode 1, look at the journey up onto episode 100. And, I'm grateful for what we've been able to accomplish. And I'm also very, very grateful for your time today. They say an attitude of gratitude is good attitude. And when somebody shares their time with you, they share their life with you, because the SI unit for measuring life is time. Without further ado, I know you have to run away shortly. I'm going to put you through the Pacific Ring of Fire, because I know a little bit about your origin, right? Your heritage, and of course you are from somewhere that is close to the Pacific Ring of Fire. You're from somewhere that is around the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. So
Absolutely.
let me run you through 5 quick questions. Just tell me what comes to your mind real quick. Number 1, what's the best book you've read on leadership or innovation?
I would go back a few years to when Daniel Goldman first broached the notion of emotional intelligence. And his first book on emotional intelligence, was mind-blowing. And for leadership, I think it was a defining moment for leadership.
I like that. I would endeavor to add that resource to the show notes, so our audience are able to benefit from that. So number 2, AI or human touch, if you had to pick only one for service excellence, what would you pick?
I'd never pick only one. It has to be both.
We want to strong arm you here, so we'll go with one.
I'm going to go with AI. And the
Okay,
reason I do
AI.
that is because,
Because AI is with you here. That is the reason why.
How could I forget? The reality is 80% of interaction can be done very, very well by AI.
Okay, number 3, the biggest misconception people have about customer service.
That customer experience can be delivered by an organization. Only customer service can be delivered.
Interesting. Number 4, what's one daily habit that helps you stay ahead of the curve?
I pray every morning.
That amount of faith. The
Mhm.
Bible says, watch and pray. And of course, have you seen a man diligent in his work? He should stand before kings and not mere men. I love that. So, final question. Finish this sentence. Great service starts with dash. What is
Great
dash?
people.
Hey, speaking of great people, thank you very much for being great, and of course being a great person, and being on the podcast today. My final call to action would be for people to, take advantage of your free webinar and customer service revolutionizer framework via www.service-revolution.com. So that is going to be in the show notes as well. So before you go, do you have anyone to give a shout out to? And of course, kindly encourage the audience to please share, like, subscribe, do the needful. I am working very, very hard to bring in great people like Johann Diaz. Please, let's let the work go to meet the people that need it. So over to you, Johann.
Ademola, thanks very much for the conversation. I've enjoyed it enormously. We clearly share a passion for inspiring others and educating others and offering them our experience, right? Because we stand on the shoulders of those who've gone before us. And as
Absolutely.
a human race, we need to continue to learn. So happy to be with you and to share the conversation. Thank you very much for the time.
And of course, thank you very much once again. And of course, love and respect to you. God bless you, sir. And of course, till you guys see me again, look after yourselves and do the needful. Go share, like, subscribe, and I'll be in your faces again soon.